Assalamu alaikum, hello, and thank you for clicking through and coming to watch my video. My name's Jon Dean, and if you're here watching this right now, it's most likely because you've just watched or seen a clip of a video on YouTube of me in Saudi Arabia becoming a Muslim. I wanted just to tell you my story because people keep asking, like, you know, sometimes the video's not that clear or the sound's not that clear, and maybe it would be easier if I just told you, you know, exactly what happened and how I got to that point in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, in front of all those people where you saw me basically embracing Islam and becoming a Muslim. And people are always asking, like, all these questions like, John, why did you do it? What did your family say? What did your friends say? How has it impacted your life? What makes someone go from being, you know, a Christian, or as in probably a modern day normal, I would say, English non-practicing Christian, and how does all this happen? So that's what this video is here to do. So I'm going to just quickly tell you, I'm not going to spend too long because I don't want to bore you. I'm going to tell you what I went through, what I did, and then if you have any questions, feel free. I'm going to put some links up behind me, and you can come and chat with me anytime on Facebook or by email. And I'm actually going to tell you about another message that I'm kind of starting to spread, which might interest you. But my story pretty much was in 2008, 2009, I moved to Riyadh in Saudi Arabia. I went out there to work. I work in the health industry, so exercise and nutrition. And I went out there because Saudi Arabia was a place that needed people like me to come and help them move. And also, you know, it's a big growing industry out here. It's very fast, and they are cash rich people. You know, there's money out here. So I came out here, and as I was working here, I had no idea about Islam. Nothing at all. Apart from the fact that I'd seen some pictures on TV, what I thought was Saudi Arabia would be like, and most of the Middle East, which was war-torn and, you know, people blowing themselves up here and there. I had no idea, and this kind of image I had made me a little bit worried about coming here, but also it kind of gave me the impression that Islam was very, very strict. You know, if you put a foot out of line, that's it, boom, you'd be in prison, you'd be whipped, you'd have your hand cut off. You know, you hear all these stories. So the first kind of thing for me was to start understanding Islam purely to kind of make sure I didn't get put into jail. That was why I started it. I came out here thinking, right, I want to kind of lead as normal a life as I can, as what I was compared to doing at home, and not get caught doing anything that's too bad and, you know, put into prison and put me into a bad situation. I had no idea what it was like. So I started reading a bit about Islam. And this is, you know, I'm someone that, you know, I've lived with lots of different people in lots of different countries. You know, I've lived with people that are Hindus and Buddhists and Christians and Catholics, and I've had friends that are Jewish and atheist, non-believers, people that are spiritual, people that just practice sort of different spiritual different non-religions, but they believe that there's a creator, but they don't believe in, you know, the Bible or the Quran or any of the other kind of texts that we can get given. And I've always had this. I've always known that there's something bigger than us. I see. I can't. I'm not an atheist. I never have been. And I could never believe that, you know, boom, this was just one big accident. There's no purpose to my life. There's no connections with anything. There's nothing bigger than me. I am, you know, I am it. This is me. I can do what I want. I never quite believed in that. And as such, that kept me fairly grounded throughout life, but also interested in knowing more. So I guess I always had this thirst for knowledge into the kind of the unseen as such. And I used to read a lot of books, you know, people like Bruce Lee, Muhammad Ali. I was quite interested in martial arts and boxing, and I used to love the spiritual side of these guys, you know, where they would find, you know, whether they would get their power from their belief, their guts to keep going, you know. This is what excited me. And when I came to Saudi Arabia, it's one of those countries where you're like, at first, whoa, you know, you know, lots of women are completely covered. All the men are wearing their traditional clothing, the thobe. You know, and it's kind of very different from where I used to live, and it's not a very publicly smiley country. You know, you go up to people don't smile that much to you when you're in the street. And what I noticed is, the more I started speaking to people here, the friendlier they were. And I kept thinking to myself, wait a minute, I'm sure these guys are supposed to be really strict and not want to see, you know, not want to be helpful, and, you know, this kind of misconception that I had in my head. It turns out that the Arab people in general are probably the most hospitable and friendliest people on the planet. On top of that, it's the most unviolent and peaceful place I've ever been in my life. You know, I don't have to watch my back out here. You can walk past a group of 10, you know, 17, 18-year-olds at 2 o'clock in the morning, standing outside a mall or a coffee shop. You can walk through them and you don't have to fear anything. You know, these guys, they'll be polite. Usually they say, hey, how are you? You know, how is Manchester United? Things like this. And people here are friendly. And this kind of friendliness, this hospitality, this kind of giving back, this attitude that I found here shocked me. And it started making me think, wait a minute, if the people aren't like they seem on TV, you know, there's no soldiers walking the street, there's no wars seem to be going on, there's no one blowing themselves up. If these things aren't happening like what I was led to believe, then maybe the religion is not so harsh and strict and, you know, restrictive and prison-like. So I started talking to my friends a little bit more about the religion. Like, you know, how do you get on with this? You know, you're a cool guy. You know, well, how do you get through life, you know, having to do this and this and this? And people would always talk to me the same way. They'd always start talking about the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, the Prophet. And they talk about his life and what he would do and how productive he was and how he would lead with, you know, a really balanced way of life, and he was kind and generous and all these good things. And I was thinking, wow, you know, this guy sounds really interesting. And so I started reading more about the Prophet and other prophets of Islam. And it just started flooding to me, this information, and how all the stories from the Bible and that I'd learned at school, how they were also in the Quran, and how these two religions were so closely integrated. I should say 3 religions, the Abrahamic religions as such, the, you know, Jewish, Christian and Islam, and how they were so closely linked and connected. And this brought me in, you know, this made me think, wow, I know that, I've heard of that story, I've seen that, you know, and I started getting more information. As a scientist, again, this is really important, as a scientist, which I'm a research scientist, when you start to study the Quran or the Hadith or the texts that surround it, the information that surround this religion, there's a lot of straight, you know, talking evidence that you can actually sit down and look at and say, oh, I can see the source of this information. I can see the history of this. I can see where this came from. And unlike some of the other texts from other religions, it was actually very straightforward. It was pretty simple. It was, you know, you've got God, believe in God. Pretty much everything else you can slowly get used to. You know, you can slowly start to integrate into your life. But if you believe in God and you believe there was a line of prophets that came to spread the message, pretty much just to help humans get on with their lives and do well, then that's Islam. You've got it down. And when I first started hearing the guys talking about this, it kind of shocked me. I was like, how can anything be that simple? I was like, so I don't have to do this, or do I have to do this every day? Do I have to do that? Like, look, the way this religion works is pretty much, here's a guide. Okay, here's a guide for life. If you believe that there's something that created everything, okay, a creator. So the universe, everything was a creation. You know, it wasn't just an accident. If you believe in that, then you're Muslim, okay? You believe in one creator that pretty much governs everything, okay? Then all your job is now to keep going down that line, to start investigating more. And the good thing about Islam, it tells you, test it, you know, challenge Islam, read, you know, learn. This is a big thing of especially the olden day Muslims, the original Muslims, are always talking about progressing and learning, and you know, and the advancements they made to this world were unbelievable. And I'm not going to talk about them now, but it was fascinating, the history and the science. And it occurred to me, because people just don't know this information. We don't get taught about it at school. You know, a bit like surfing. Not many of my friends can surf or snowboard. And they've all seen it on TV. Some of them think it looks all right. Some things it looks crazy and dangerous. But until you start to do it, until you start to feel it, you know, you'll never really understand it. And Islam's a bit like that. You have to start to read about it from, you know, good sources, good people. And if you email me, I know plenty of very smart, interesting people that you can listen to, you know, small bites about the religion. And anyway, I'm going on too much. So basically, it opened my eyes and made me realize that what I knew about it was pretty much wrong. And when I started reading about it, it was very simple, very straightforward, and it made sense. It made sense to do this. I mean, things like prayer, I knew that I'd meditated before, I'd gone to yoga classes. I knew that actually taking some time out in the day to say thank you and to relax and to picture something higher than yourself and to be grateful and to think about your loved ones, stuff like this helps. And if you do it in a group with 1,000 other people doing it, you feel that energy. Trust me, you get recharged. And so this, all of a sudden, it was like, well, I can pray and I can stand back up, and I feel great. I was like, oh, bingo! That, you know, it's not a chore to get down and put your head on the floor, you know. And once you do that, once your head touches that floor, you know, something in your body tells your mind, your soul, your spirit, whatever it is, that you know you're submitting, you know. And this is what Islam's all about. You're actually dropping down and you're saying, yeah, you know, there's something greater than me, and I want to learn more about this. I want to build up this feeling, this what we might call faith. And to do this, I'm going to do these practices daily, and I'm going to slowly build on this, and I'm going to enjoy it. So back to my story. So here we go. You need to know my story. You need to know what people thought and how I felt. So one day, after all this information had been going in my head, I'm reading, studying, I said to the guys, look, I think we were having lunch. We were having lunch in a hospital, and one of my friends said to me, you know, I hope one day, inshallah, you'll become a Muslim. And I said, you know, I think I'm ready. They were like, what? You're ready? I was like, yeah, I'm ready. I want to do this. I want to become Muslim. You know, I've studied it. I've researched it. Been a bit of a scientist geek. I believe in it, and I'm starting to feel an urge to go towards it. You know, there's a pulling that I need to do this, and when I feel a pulling like this in my life, I've got to move forward towards it. So I'm gonna take that chance. Excuse me. So you know, that was it. The kind of the ball was rolling, and although you saw me on the video becoming Muslim with the sheikh in the mosque, originally I'd actually said the shahada. I'd actually said this before. I'd actually gone outside the hospital with two of my friends, because the idea behind, when you become a Muslim, you just need two people to be with you, and you just say that you believe in God, and that you believe the Prophet Muhammad was the final prophet, and you're basically making a statement that you are Muslim. Okay, and the Muslims call it reverting. So you're going, everyone's born a Muslim, you know, you go your ways, and then you come back to your original way, which is just to become Muslim, and you just believe in one God, one true God. And I went outside, and these guys helped me with the Arabic words, and I remember saying it. And feeling, not really feeling anything at the time, and just following the word, you know, listen to the Arabic words they were saying, not quite sure what they meant at the time. We said it in English and then in Arabic, and then being embraced, hugging my two friends. You know, big smiles, it's interesting at the time. And then I remember walking back in the hospital, walking upstairs, and as I'm walking upstairs, I'm not kidding, my kind of, the sound around me, it's very weird to explain, but so crystal clear in my head. Things started getting quieter for me, on the outside, because I remember walking in and there's people saying, "Oh, congratulations," and you know, colleagues that I worked with shaking my hands, and it was kind of like I couldn't quite hear them. Their volume was turned down. It's strange, but the volume inside me was starting to turn up. And it was kind of like someone was mixing in the sound quality on the outside versus the inside. And I was talking, and this sound inside me was getting louder and louder. And it was starting to get to the point when I was actually starting to get a little bit worried. So I was like, oh, like an emotional feeling, you know, not happiness, not sadness, not anything I'd felt before. So I left and I said, I'm just going to the toilet. Went over to the bathroom, went in and locked the door. And just stood in front of the mirror, and this sound was increasing, and this feeling was increasing. I guess the way to describe it would be feel like when a kettle's boiling, and I don't know, something like this, and you know something's going to blow. You've kind of got this feeling something's going to blow. I remember holding the sink, pushing water on my face, and thinking, what is happening? What is happening? And it got so loud that it got to the point, and I remember I just burst out crying. I was just crying and crying, and I remember crying and looking at myself crying in the mirror, and then I was crying so hard that I started laughing, because I was, why am I crying? So now I'm starting to laugh and cry, and I'm thinking, please, hope no one can come in and see me like this. And it was just one big kind of explosion of feelings coming out of me, and just like that, boom, it stopped. I remember just looking at myself like, whoa, what just happened? And at that point, I had this feeling of just peace. Just that's how I describe it, like peace with everywhere within me, the outside. It was unreal. You know, I'd never experienced anything like that before, and ever since that day, you know, I've never quite got that feeling of peace back, but I've always had it with me, you know, it's never been that sort of in my face. But since that day, I've had this feeling, it gets me a bit now, but I had this, it was a completely different feeling for me, and it's changed my life since that day, and I've never looked back since. And it's kind of strange talking to a camera about it. It's still quite weird talking to anyone about it, but it was a very, you know, something that I can't explain. And that's what I love about, you know, spiritual moments like this. You know, you just can't, there's no scientist that can measure it. It's just something between you and God. And if people believe it, they believe it. If they don't, they don't. If they experience it, then that's amazing. That's what I want.